Warning. Critique Revolve contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue to listen.
I'm a AAA rated executive protection agent. And you're the most wanted hitman in the world. My job is to keep you out of harm's way.
Welcome, folks, to the new episode of Critique Revolve. My name is Gregory Darkside Holmes. Yes, that is right. You are hearing me on the mic as the host for Critique Revolve. So the world has come to an end. Hell has frozen over. Mike is letting me host a show. And what fitting movie for me to do a review on than The Hitman's Bodyguard. Now, I'm not here by myself. Joining me is my friend Ben. Ben, go and say hello to the great folks at home.
Hello to the great folks at home.
See, there you go. Any trained chimp can get on the mic. So today we're going to be talking about The Hitman's Bodyguard that stars Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, or as Ben will refer to them as...
Hal Jordan and Jules Winfield.
So for any of you that don't know who those characters are, Hal Jordan obviously is the Green Lantern, and Jules is...
Pulp Fiction, my man.
All right, I was worried there. You kind of stuttered. I was going to say, use the name, Ben. You're going to...
It felt like it was so obvious. I mean, even people got to know who Jules Winfield is.
We're not even 5 minutes into the show, so don't fuck this up. I'm the destroyer of shows here, so if anybody fucks this up, it'll be me.
Oh, I'll let you do it then.
Okay. So, I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler... not so spoiler written. Try and keep it as basic as possible, let you folks know how the movie went. So we literally just got back from watching the film, and this film to me basically felt like old buddy cop films, like 48 Hours, another 48 Hours, and then even Bulletproof, kind of pitting against like the very by the book character with the very outlandish kind of do what I want, kind of shoot from the hip. Ben, what did you think of the film? Just a very basic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing, at least for me, was it was a buddy cop film, just like you said, except they're not cops. And it was so like Asian martial arty, quick cut camera styling that it was a sort of a weird mix of the two. It wasn't bad necessarily, but it was a little disconcerting at parts to think like, oh, we're in the funny part, and then all of a sudden we're in this Ryan Reynolds is kicking somebody's ass part, and you're like, no, that doesn't seem to work so well all the time.
So we'll get into more of that. We'll go over kind of how, the feel of the film, how it was cut, how we felt it went, to the story itself, to the actors that portrayed the characters. Now, not only, again, like we said, it has Ryan Reynolds, who is known for his comedic aspects, and he has done action films before. Obviously, most people know him for Deadpool, but some people might also remember him as, Hal Jordan in the ill-fated Green Lantern film. But some of you might remember, or might not, that he was also in Blade Trinity next to Triple H and Wesley Snipes.
So, yeah, no, that was fantastic.
So,
wasn't he also Deadpool though in the third X-Men movie? Which
he was with, he was in Wolverine.
Wolverine, yeah,
as Deadpool. So that was kind of where, when they announced the actual Deadpool film, everybody said, well, let's bring him back. So you've got Ryan Reynolds, and he's also, playing alongside Samuel L. Jackson, who everybody knows as kind of the token badass. Whenever any movie he's in, whether it's a small role or a large role, he tends to play a badass.
Well, he's the bad motherfucker.
Exactly. Which, when you see the film, you will realize how many ways there are to use the phrase motherfucker. I swear a lot. You have heard me swear a lot if you listen to the other shows. If you remember from the Men from the Lives days, I swear a lot on there. But alongside them, you also have Gary Oldman, who kind of plays the villain in the film. Now, for me, when they showed the hence villain or the main bad guy in the film, the reason that brings them together, I was shocked that it was Gary Oldman. I think he's a great addition to this cast. I think he did a really good job at his character. He's kind of one of those actors that when he takes on a role, like when he was in Fifth Element, he completely took on a completely different persona and look. I think he's one of those actors that just completely dives into the role that they play, and then they essentially transform into that character.
Yeah, Gary Oldman is a fucking badass. And when he popped on the screen, I was like, oh shit, it's Gary Oldman. You don't think that they would need him. And, Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds' star couldn't be any brighter right now. Let's be honest. with all the stuff he's doing and the success of Deadpool. But then you got Gary Oldman, who is character actor par excellence. If you think of him from, like you said, The Fifth Element, or you can think of him, he Harry Potter films. And he was also in The Professional, where he plays the rogue agent. And so,
True.
And, you know, it seemed like his character here was sort of a development of a type of character he played in The Professional. It was just, he's great. He's great. He makes me smile when he comes on screen. Not that I have a Gary Oldman fetish, although I might.
That's fine if you do.
Yeah, that's cool. Nobody's judging me here, especially you.
Nope, I'm judging you.
Yeah, that's true. But the fact is, he's great. He plays a really interesting role. I'm not going to give any spoilers away. But I thought his character, in light of what's going on politically today, was a pretty topical character, actually.
No, it made sense. Though, like you said, politically what's going on today with a certain country, it makes sense. It kind of brings back those political worries of the tyrannical dictator and what could really be going on inside their country. He plays a character to a T, and he is surrounded by a kind of like his secret hit squad. And of course, he has one character who is named Ivan, who is basically that one guy in the group that is the quintessential like Frankenstein type character that cannot be taken down. He was a great addition. I felt he didn't speak a lot, but his presence on screen made you feel like, shit, how are they going to deal with this guy when it comes to that point?
Yeah, and that's the thing about these. The villains have shifted over time in film, right? I mean, you've got the stock character, and it seems like Eastern Europe right now is sort of we can take a stock character bad guy and drop him into a film, and people are going to be scared of him. I mean, you had to be scared a little bit of that Ivan character, because there's a moment where you just thought you've seen it before. You know what's coming. He's going to get bashed, and he's just going to keep coming and coming and coming.
He's like Jason and Michael Myers and all those guys in horror films. No matter what you do, they're going to keep coming back. They're going to, appear out of nowhere and be like, shh, I thought I just killed this guy. But he plays the character perfectly.
Yeah, he does.
And to kind of finish rounding out the cast, you have Salma Hayek, who plays Kincaid's wife.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson plays Darius Kincaid, and while Salma Hayek plays his wife in the movie, she's actually my wife in real life. You didn't know that, Greg. And I love her. I love her in every single thing she's ever been in, from Desperado to Dusk Till Dawn to Dogma. I think Salma Hayek could read a cookbook, and I would pay full movie prices to see her do that. But she plays a really funny character, and you'd think, as Samuel L. Jackson's character's wife, that doesn't work. I mean, if you picture them together, I don't think it works in the beginning, but they do a really good job of actually making it work.
The way that, and we'll get to the story next. I want to make sure we touch on the last of the major cast here, but I agree. Salma Hayek, I always remember her from when From Dusk Till Dawn came out, and I remember me and my buddies sneaking in to see the film because it was rated R and we weren't old enough yet. And I remember going home that night, pranking one to Salma Hayek and being like, I'm okay with being a vampire and worshiping the devil. Like, that's totally cool. Like, if Salma Hayek, like, hey, sweet, I'm totally cool for that.
Yeah, she totally carried off that giant ball, pale python in the film, and Greg totally carried off his small little python at home.
At the time, so I was young. I was still growing. Anyways.
He's a grower, not a shower.
Shut up. But to round off the cast, we have Elodie Young. For those of you that don't know who she is, and those of you that do, for those that don't, she actually will be playing Elektra in the upcoming Defenders show on Netflix.
Yeah, she was actually Elektra in the Netflix Daredevil, and she's great. Also true. And she's great. She's a great sort of physical actress who isn't one. I don't think you'd call her a classical beauty. I mean, I don't think she's on par with some of the quote Hollywood starlets today. But her presence on film is really magnetic, and she and some of the characters in the film, especially Ryan Reynolds' character, they have a very good on-screen chemistry. I thought it really worked in that way.
Well, and what they did is basically, and we'll get into kind of the story here. So for those of you that don't know, the basis of the story is that Ryan Reynolds' character is charged with protecting Samuel L. Jackson's character and getting him basically to testify against Gary Oldman's character in Eastern Europe. So it's kind of like I said, it's one of those. It's kind of like a buddy cop film, except they're assassins, or well, one's a elite protection agent,
right,
and then one is a elite assassin. Samuel Jackson plays the elite assassin. Ryan Reynolds plays the elite protection agent.
Right.
So you have that kind of oddball connection where one is by the book, Ryan Reynolds. One kind of just does what he wants, which is always Samuel Jackson. Again, if you've ever seen like 48 Hours with Nolte and Eddie Murphy, Bulletproof with Adam Sandler and Keenan Ivory Wayans. I mean, no, it's Damon Wayans. Sorry,
yeah,
let me correct myself.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, you think buddy cop, you have to put two people who are opposites, and you let the sparks fly. If it works, great. You think Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans, that didn't work. And you had the white-black dynamic. It's the same as it is in this film, but I think in this film it actually does work. And I think it's because both actors play their characters. I would say Ryan Reynolds plays that sort of deadpan, sarcastic, quippy, one-liner sort of guy better than anyone in Hollywood right now. And let's be honest, he's a dreamboat. That doesn't hurt.
So, like you said, they go together. But the thing is, for me, watching them play on screen, so obviously there's going to be kind of that trek across the country. They're going to end up in some fights. They're going to, kind of have trust issues. There's, kind of Ryan Reynolds' character's past is, you find out, ends up being connected to Samuel Jackson. And the way they reveal it is kind of, normally we'd say it would be in the middle of the film, but it's more towards the end. I think the story for this was fairly simple. It was very basic, but it was, to me, it was well done. They had a clear, concise goal for what they wanted to do, and they accomplished it. It wasn't, contrite with a bunch of, oh, let's try and say this. Oh, let's do this. Let's do that. I've got something to say. I want to get this in there. No, they said, hey, this is our goal for this film, and this is what we're going to do. And the writer, Tom O'Connor, he's, his filmography is kind of, short. It's The Hitman's Bodyguard, and then Fire with Fire, which is basically direct to, I believe, maybe Netflix, Amazon type film. But the pacing in this was great. Nothing was rushed. Everything was kind of touched on and then expanded at, to me, the time it needed to be expanded on. And kind of the one thing was, you kind of mentioned it before, was, kind of some spots where, like, they had some comedy and then they went back to being serious. So there are kind of parts like where they're like, oh, ha ha ha, and then boom, we're back to being serious. We're fighting, we're gunshots. Then they try and sprinkle in some one-liner comedy. And some points it worked kind of early on in the film. It seemed kind of like, all right, we're trying to find the perfect flow here. And then to me, by the end, they accomplished, they got that going.
Yeah, and I think part of that happens naturally in the film, because that's when I think it catches its stride when Ryan Reynolds and Sam Jackson are put together in the partnership, because they're kind of separate in the beginning of the film, and then they're put together. And that's when it sort of, I think what you're talking about, Greg, is that it catches its rhythm and it sort of follows it along. And one of the things I thought the directors of the film, the sort of the staging of it wasn't set in America. It's set in Europe. So you're set in London and you're set in Amsterdam. And so what you've got here, I think, is a bit of the exotic, and you're dealing with locations that aren't like America and the 4-lane highways on each side and the space. You're dealing with these old, cramped, sometimes medieval, like Amsterdam towns, where they've got to drive cars and shoot guns and figure out ways to get around. And I thought that added a really cool dimension to the film, because you could get an American film like that. You could get something like The Bourne Identity, those series where, Jason Bourne, they're constantly throughout Eastern Europe, and then they end up in Vegas for the last film. And I just didn't think Jason Bourne in that way worked as well as the other Bourne films, because of the actual physical topography of places like London or Paris or Amsterdam, where this movie takes a lot of, where The Hitman's Bodyguard takes place a lot in. So I think that action, as you were talking about, which was, I think, really well done, owes a lot in some part to the physical location in which the movie takes place.
Yeah, and kind of going with that, like the way you mentioned with like the action, kind of how it's like, the very like quick paced martial arts. gunplay type stuff. So the director, Patrick Hughes, his previous works, actually the one big one is The Expendables 3. So he's no stranger to an action film. I think he did really well with this. I think the film, from start to finish, they had stories to tell from Samuel Jackson and Salma Hayek, like why, what their relationship is and why they are the way they are, how they met. And then Ryan Reynolds and his love interest, played by, again, Elodie Young. And they kind of touch on that from the start, and then they pick it right back up when they kind of do their time jump. As far as the action scenes, it didn't feel like they were forced. It seemed that they fit where they were. It wasn't just kind of like, all right, we're in a crowded, European street. Let's just have a huge gunfight. Okay, now they're going to be one-on-one. They're going to, do some martial arts, maybe a little gunplay, and then, they're then they're done. I think one of the best scenes that shows how they kind of, to me, they seem to think out the action a little bit more so than I think most action films, is when Samuel Jackson and Ryan Reynolds first meet.
Right.
That's where they kind of reveal that they have a past.
Mm-hmm.
And that interaction is, to me, kind of shows these are two professionals who, to me, in the end, seem that they are equals, but they consider each one kind of on the wrong side, or they consider, I'm better than you because I do this, or I'm better than you because I do that. I think they do a really good job of their introduction. I think the action, like their different action styles, they keep that intact throughout the film. How, again, Ryan Reynolds is very by the book. He has his set of rules that he doesn't break. And then Samuel Jackson, again, just as always, does what he wants. I think, most action films or most buddy cop films where they start that, the kind of by the book person by the end is like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to break the rules. Whereas this, they kept that going throughout the entire film.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because one of the things that always ends up happening, as you say, is like the each of the main characters take on the aspects of the other in order to, quote, get the job done. But here they don't do that, even to sometimes the detriment of each other. They just do, as Sam Jackson says, I'm just going to make it pop. I do what it do. But it works because they both seem to be experts in the field when they show what they call the gun fu, the movement, the martial arts mixed in with weapons and guns. It doesn't look inauthentic. It's believable. Now, I know Sam Jackson's older than he was when he was Jules Winfield and, gunning motherfuckers down, but it didn't seem out of the realm of possibility that this guy, this, master hitman for hire, could be performing these moves in contrast to a younger, more fit, more seemingly able Ryan Reynolds. But it works. It really works. And I love the scene when they meet, but I'm hearkening back. Anytime there's a kitchen scene with a hot grill and they don't use that grill, I get disappointed. Let me just tell you, they use a grill in this movie, and it's great. I love grills. It's great.
So kind of going off that, kind of, for the most part of this year, we've kind of been blowing the film and saying how great and how awesome it is. Now, for me, kind of I would say maybe some of the downsides is, like I said, the plot for this, the way it's done, the story is very, is very basic. You can kind of figure things out as you watch it, but it's a fun movie to watch. Mm-hmm. For me, the downside was, and again, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to tell you how it ends. Just for me, the way it ends is kind of predictable for any movie like this, and it just kind of takes away, I think, what they built through it, where they could have done something different in the end, instead of, okay, this is what's happening, they finally came together, oh no, this, are they gonna make, they're not gonna make it out, this is bullshit,
right?
They went through so much, now this is gonna happen. It just kind of felt like the end was kind of, okay, we've got this really great film, how do we end it? Let's just go this route where, kind of, it goes to the route of the bad guy's going to win, but in the end he doesn't, obviously, because it's one of those films, it does it at the end. And I just think that part, to me, was poorly done. The very final scene was pretty hilarious, but the sequences leading up to it, was just extremely predictable. I felt they could have done something different. I felt that they could have, maybe done more with what Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson went through instead of just kind of saying, okay, now we're here. We'll just kind of basically plug this in and we're done.
Yeah, I think people that make this kind of movie, especially with viewers who know what they're going to see, right? They're seeing a buddy film. They're going to see some, Hitman's Bodyguard. There's guns. They're pictured with guns in the movie poster, right? So this is all going to happen. So how do you end something like this? How do you end a story when the characters have to go through this journey, for lack of a better word? And I think unless you want to totally throw a curveball at the audience, totally screw something up, you have to end it the way they did. And, again, like Greg said, no spoilers here, but how this is kind of going to go, right? And so I don't think either one of us are saying, oh, here's exactly what happens. But you guys are smart. You know what's going to happen. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, there's no, again, like I said, the story isn't one of those really intricate ones. It's literally a popcorn film. You go, you laugh. Samuel Jackson and Ryan Reynolds swear at each other, yell at each other, funny clips. They each tell each other to shut the fuck up. And then again, then you can see the end coming. They pretty much lay it out for you the way things go in the end. And I don't know, I kind of disagree. I think they could have done something a little bit different. I'm not talking about like an M. Night Shyamalan type twist here, but something where there could have been a little bit more instead of kind of the typical. They could have done something a little different than what they've done in the past with these type of films.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. They could have switched it up because, again, one of the things that I sort of live for when I see these kind of things is messing with my expectation. Give me something I wasn't expecting. Now, I wasn't expecting them to have such great chemistry, so that was useful. But I also wanted to see a little bit more of the story take maybe a turn that I didn't anticipate. It sort of felt at the end a little color by numbers. You said point A, point B, point C, and we're done. And that's not disappointing, but it's just kind of like, I think, like you said, they missed an opportunity to maybe do something a little different. Not that it wasn't enjoyable, but it could have been more.
Yeah. And so kind of, to wrap things up here, kind of giving final thoughts. I enjoyed the film. I thought it was great to kind of see Ryan Reynolds play something a little bit more serious than always playing the kind of the comedic wisecracking. Everybody now knows him as Deadpool. And I think for him to step away, and he still does kind of the comedic thing, but here he's a little bit more of a serious character, which is nice to see him kind of step away from doing Deadpool to do something a little bit more serious, but still have fun with it. So, for me, this is a fun film to watch. Again, if you're going into this expecting some deep story like Leon the Professional, or Pulp Fiction, or if you're expecting, something like Green Lantern, if you enjoyed that film, if you did, for the love of God, I don't know why. It's not that. It's a popcorn flick. It's something fun to watch. It's good to go and have a laugh, and watching their chemistry on screen. Above that, it's your buddy cop movie.
It's lots of people liked Green Lantern. They were blind, but they liked it. Look, would I pay the full Friday night box office price to see this film? Probably not. I would definitely pay it at a matinee because I think it'd be definitely worth your time. What you're not going to get, though, is exactly right. You're not going to get this overarching message. I keep hearkening back to the action sequences in the film. It makes me think of Paul Greengrass's Bourne films. And one of the major differences that I noticed is every time Samuel L. Jackson or Ryan Reynolds got into this action moment, there was this blaring, overarching music. And in the Bourne films, there was just silence letting the guys do their thing. And I think that's a big difference. Bourne tried to be higher art, right? It tried to reach that level of sort of cinema rather than a movie. And I think, the guys who made Hitman's Bodyguard made a movie. Go, have fun. Damn it, Sam Jackson is who you want him to be. Ryan Reynolds is who you want him to be. I think, Greg, your point about him being Deadpool from now on is something all iconic characters have to, film actors have to worry about. Are you that character forever? But I agree. I mean, it's worth a see. It's an enjoyable film.
Yeah. And so for that, guys, again, Thank you for joining us for this Critique Revolve for the Hitman's Bodyguard. I want to thank Ben for coming in and sitting in on the mic. And again, my name is Gregory Darkside Holmes. Will I be back on the mic again? Who knows? If you like it, let Mike know to let me host another show. If not, well, I'll see you in the next 5 months.
The Corova Milk Bar sold Milk Plus Velocet, or Synthemesk, or Drencrum, which is what we were drinking. This would sharpen you up and make you ready for a bit of the old ultra-violence.